All right, it was personal and business. The reaction that Mitch McConnell's office had to Don Blankenship blanking out and not getting the party's nomination to take on the incumbent Senator Joe Manchin there. He failed to win. And furthermore, the guy he did not want to win most assuredly did, Patrick Morrisey, the state attorney general. It's caused a lot of bad blood, but in the end, much of Mr. Blankenship's whole campaign had been built on going after the majority leader in the United States Senate, saying that he was the cause of a lot of things, that his father-in-law was a Chinaman. You had heard all of this. And a very calm, deliberate Mitch McConnell in the end got the candidate that he wanted, advised the president to recommend that maybe Blankenship should not be the guy West Virginians voted for. That worked. More moderate, winnable candidates, at least on paper, were picked by Republicans in those key states up for grabs yesterday. The read on all of this from former Virginia governor and Senator George Allen on the fallout from that. You know, a lot of people are looking at the president role he played. I don't minimize that for one second, Governor, but I do find it interesting the role Mitch McConnell played, urging, the president to toe that line, that we don't want another Roy Moore situation. We want to pick up seats. We don't want to risk losing seats. What did you make of that?
Well, what I make out of all of it, yeah, there was a spat between Mr. Blankenship and Leader McConnell, no question about it, and the president weighed in on it because the reality is I think voters in all these states were looking for leaders who are going to embrace some of the very positive policies the president has gotten through on tax reform and reasonable regulations, productive energy policy matters, and clearly in West Virginia, Ohio, and Indiana, and having people who say, gosh, this is who we want as a leader, because the winners of this are taxpayers who don't want to have to pay higher taxes again, small business owners who don't want burdensome, unnecessarily costly regulations, and those who understand how productive energy policies mean jobs, means more opportunity, more affordable electricity, and obviously a more competitive America for making things and manufacturing things here in America. So the winners are, I think, the Republicans broadly by nominating candidates who are not just running on a negative issue of being against either the leader or whatever they're against. You have to say what you're for. If you give me that honor, that responsibility of fighting for you in the U.S. Senate, here's what I'm going to do. So there'll be more jobs, more opportunities, a better quality of life, and a more competitive winning America.
But still, I got the impression, Governor or Senator, so many titles and so many fast positions.
Jorge's fine.
All right, okay, good. Washington Redskins lover comes to mind. But let me get
That's okay.
Blankenship, obviously, he doesn't want to endorse the Republican who won. I guess they have this sore loser law in West Virginia. You can't run right after losing as a third-party candidate. But you can advise your backers, if they so choose, to write you in. I don't know what sort of an impact that would have anyway. But what do you think?
I don't think it would be. I don't think it'll be much, Neil. Once you get through an intra-squad scrimmage, I'm glad you brought up a football analogy. There's people competing to be a running back or defensive lineman or wide receiver with the Redskins or any team. Once you determine who's going to be starting in these positions, you support your team. That's sportsmanship. That's what you do learn from the world of sports. And I understand that these primaries can be really vicious, these intra-squad scrimmages. But ultimately, there are many more ideas and issues and initiatives and reforms that you would think would unite Republicans. And I think if Mr. Blankenship ran as a write-in, I don't think it would have much of an impact whatsoever in West Virginia. And I think that, interestingly, a lot of attorney generals won yesterday. Attorney General Morrisey stood up against these folks who are fighting against energy manufacturers. At the same time, an ex-New York attorney general who was politically grandstanding stepped down, and the two attorney generals, former and current, are the nominees for governor of respective parties.
That's a very good point.
In Ohio,
that's
and
a
they've been
position
elected
from
statewide.
which many have gotten state office. There's no doubt about the impact that has. But let me get your take on the role the president played in this election. Very popular in at least 3 of the 4 states last night. In fact, Donald Trump had won them all. That was a very big impact. I could see a scenario where Republicans conceivably add to their seats in the Senate, even though it might be a tough row in the House. What do you think?
Well, I think West Virginia is a good opportunity for pickup. The same in Indiana. North Dakota, which is a strong energy-producing state. I think Missouri has a lot of potential there as well. And generally speaking, I think that if the Republicans nominate men and women who have a proven record of leadership on ideas that are getting our economy going, you report it every single day, Neil, noon and in the evening, and that is our economy is doing better. There are millions of job openings. There's as many job openings
that still hasn't improved the prospects that at least Republicans fear of a blue wave, certainly in the House. It might be, to your point, very different in the Senate. But yeah, why is that? Something is not connecting there.
You're making a good point there, and you look at some of the polls, and you would think, and I've been working with NAM and helping out various candidates at town hall meetings and so forth, and people who are working for manufacturers are seeing pay increases. They're seeing job opportunities. They're seeing more expansion of businesses because of the tax cuts, productive energy policy, the reasonable regulatory approaches. And so that message needs to get out. You're exactly right, Neil. And I think as people see they're getting more take-home pay, and then you, of course, contrast it to the Democrats who are saying they want to roll back this tax reform. They consider $500 or $1,000 crumbs. Well, I don't think most people consider $1,000 crumbs. That actually helps out their family pay for college tuition.
I think a lot of them want to roll it back for the well-to-do. I think that's what they want to do.
Well, for the well-to-do, and they want to go after big businesses and this, that, and the other. But that, instead of having the highest taxes in the world on incorporated businesses, we're now better than average. This is fueling a resurgence in manufacturing and businesses here in the United States as a great place to do business. And that's great for taxpayers. It's great for people who want to work for a living. It's great for communities that are revitalizing, and that's revenues to provide for schools and services in those states and communities. And it also helps our overall economy. So I don't understand how people think that raising taxes on productive businesses that are job creators is going to make our country more internationally competitive against China or anywhere else in the world. And I think most voters, when they look at those choices, they're going to say, gosh, I'd rather keep this money in my checking or bank account than having it go to Washington for them to spend it on who knows what. And they'd like the fact that there are communities, especially energy-producing communities, like a president who's pro-American energy.
Well, the revenues are coming in fast and furious for all those states, many headed by Democratic governors who are noticing it. Governor, Senator, always good seeing you. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome, Neil.